We are trying to become, in thought, lunar beings. Exploration at its finest is not about imposing will, but about learning humility. The moon is lifeless, but once we're there, we're the life that's on the moon. So how we treat it is also a way of thinking about how we treat ourselves and each other. But how we go there and how we talk about it really does matter. Description implies ethics. To the extent that we use language like colonizing, like frontier, like resources, that suggests a certain moral relationship to the moon.
We are aesthetic animals. Art is integrated into who we are and what we are. My goal as Associate Dean for Research in the Arts is to raise awareness and to integrate arts research into the larger R1 research enterprise. When we send artists into the simulated space mission,
All right, thank you all for your help and support.
how are they seeing it differently? You'd say this is a space that was designed by scientists with science in mind to make science, and then you bring artists in. What happens?
After the conversation, like, this is a good idea, then it gets a little harder. You're like, we get the funding, we have the competition to select folks to be on the mission.
When we think about the night sky and when we think about the moon, it's been part of who we are forever. I'll be the poet working on this crew. I write a lot about place and kind of sensory experiences, or the way that we get to know a place and connect to it. There's a sense of smallness and humility that comes from looking at the night sky. That's something we've really lost in our contemporary society.
How would you do this if you were going to space? So I'm going to be the textile designer or the textile artist. I decided to use everything that I've learned as a costumer and create tapestry/quilts.
I feel like a lot of my focus is kind of on the EVA, the extravehicular activity. I leave the habitat and put on the spacesuit and experiment with movement.
It's so important for us to think about what we know and how we know it and how we create knowledge. A neurolinguist from Berkeley has said that the consensus among people who study the mind is that 98% of our cognition happens outside of our conscious awareness. Arts research is our processes that work with, speak to, and activate this massive amount of our cognition.
There's always challenges when people go on an analog mission. And so what we're trying to do is simulate what it would be like to be on the lunar surface.
When we're thinking about the moon, where we can't have any direct interactions with it, we're always going to have the mediation of a spacesuit or a habitat. We won't be able to smell it or touch it.
Dancers are so connected to the surface of the floor. The shoe that you wear is put on in a really intentional way, like moving through the floor and articulating the feet. And so the boots, that's a challenge that I'm looking forward to moving through.
We're looking at technology, we're looking at operations. Every crew has a different mission that they propose.
One of the key things you need for your planetary exploration is communication. The technology we are trying to test is mesh network. You don't rely on any already existing infrastructure. And once you are placing all the devices you are bringing with you around, they will start communicating. The data we are seeing behind us are at the moment being collected by a set of sensors which are communicating via mesh network.
Even NASA doesn't have a pressurized analog operating today. Because our analog is hermetically sealed and pressurized, they are constantly monitoring the pressure, and they're also monitoring the quality of their air. Inside of SAM, they're aware of every breath they take, every drop of water they drink. And this crew in particular will be the first time that they're recycling the moisture in the air, and then running that water through a high-quality activated carbon filter, and they're putting that water back into the drinking supply, then dehydrate their food, grind it up with a NutriBullet, and then they feed it to mycelia, which is the root structure of mushrooms, and then they'll be able to eat the mushrooms. It's a zero-waste facility. There are no garbage cans inside.
We were really careful about the toilet paper.
We were careful about everything.
We were
We
careful
really
about-
wanted to be good. We also were able to recycle some of the water.
We drank our own breath. So,
Yeah, it was good.
yeah, it worked.
Yeah.
All right, ready to go?
The 1/6 gravity zone felt completely new. Telling the students to kind of experiment, take risks, be vulnerable in terms of their dance and their choreography.
I wasn't anticipating how hard it was going to be to sew. With my hands being restricted, I couldn't hold things very well. Maybe that could be improved for another mission.
As a dancer, you spend a lifetime trying to move in a really articulate way. Being in the 1/6 gravity zone felt completely new.
Astronauts can actually come in after their spacewalk with hand trauma. You can lose fingernails just from the work that you're doing in space because the suits are so difficult to move in.
In some movements, the amount of energy that it took for me to move in the spacesuit was more, and sustaining movement for a long period of time, I felt out of breath.
To be able to allow the person to have better movement and a little less stiffness. That's why me and Trent are creating pressure suits that might, help with that challenge.
What kinds of things astronauts should be expected to know and do. We can ask them to think creatively and to, maybe try to do art. Can we ask them that? I mean, I want to because I think it's important, but they have so much work to do.
Trying to imagine a way that an artist could be part of a crew, because then if you had someone that was their specialty, it's maybe a big ask, but it's a way to say, communicating this through art is valuable enough. Usually for me, it's a question of what does this mean? Who am I as an individual? Who are we as a community? Who are we as a species? What does it mean to be human?
Hi, I'm Tom McNamara, host of Arizona Illustrated. Thanks so much for watching this story from our show. And for more local stories from Arizona Illustrated, just click right here.